Hi, I'm Anthony Chaponi. I'm the product manager for the video and pixel products at Chauvet Professional. Today, I'm here to start off our new training series for video and pixel products. We're going to discuss connections, mappings, and content delivery solutions that we offer in our product line. You know, I've done a lot of different video wall trainings with our customers, and surprisingly, there are a lot of misconceptions with video wall and pixel-based products that stem from people using projection and understanding how the projection market works. So what I hope to accomplish in this series is to clarify the way our system works and to go ahead and do away with any misconceptions. Hey guys, so we're going to show you how to hang the PVP S5 video panels. Remember, this is a track system, so for this I'm actually going to start from the bottom and I'm going to slide up because I'm installing a video panel in the center of a grid. Alright, so let's go ahead and get that done. So as I said, the tongue and groove system, you slide it into position, grab the Spigo hardware connector by the base, push it and give it a quarter turn, hand tighten the base, and then you'll come back later with a wrench and go ahead and give it an extra quarter turn to snug it into position. Hey guys, so the video panels come with power and signal cables included in each road case. I have a signal cable here, which is the EtherCon, and I have a power cable here, which is the PowerCon. These are actually the cables that come with our PVP S series video panels. The cables are long enough to accommodate doing either the Z connection style or the N connection style. However, you'll still need a longer cable to connect to the control system. Alright guys, so what I just did here is I connected the power and the data in the Z style configuration. What the Z style configuration means, as you can see, you start from one end of the row, continue to the end, and then you link downwards. Alright, this is going to be possible with our PVP S and X series video panels. It's not going to be possible with the MVP series. Alright guys, so we just did the Z style connection, so now we're going to show you how to do the N style. Alright? So basically we start at the top again, but instead of going to the panel directly to the side, we're going to go straight down. This is actually going to be a cleaner cable look for you guys, so you might be more interested in this. So like I was just telling you, this is the in-style connection. So what we do here is we have power and data coming into the first panel on the top left, and on our output of the same panel we have the linking option. So we have our power output here and our data output here, and we come straight down into this panel, and then we just try and tuck our cables away. Alright? Something noteworthy to be aware of, while your power is polarized, there is a dedicated in and a dedicated out. Your data is not. Your data is fully interchangeable. Okay, so we're coming here, we're coming straight over, we go back up, into this panel, straight down, over, and up. And this is the idea why it's called the in configuration, because it's down, over, down. And we just continue that motion. Whether your video panel was 3, 4, 5, 6 rows tall, the connection would be the same. So before you configure your software for the video capture, first you need to plug your gear in. That's going to be done on the back of the Media Server Pro. So we're using HDMI. We're going to plug right into our video input, which is on the bottom right hand portion. The top is our video output. Next thing we want to do is we want to connect the other end of the cable into our laptop. It's done right here. Make sure you have a firm connection. And then after you complete this, you want to proceed on to the software configuration portion of the video. So first off, I want to introduce the VIP driver. We have two VIP drivers in this particular setup. They are being connected in the cascade function. So you'll notice on the left, our dip switches are set both to up. This defines this VIP driver as number 1. On the one above it, these dip switches are set 1 to on, 2 to off. This defines this VIP driver as number 2. Let's look at our connections for the VIP driver. You have two inputs, either DVI or HDMI. For this setup, we're using the DVI connections. You also have USB. Please take note, while we are going USB into the first driver, we're not going USB into the second driver. Our 9-pin serial cable on the left, this serves the function for getting the data to the second driver. The other thing to notice is we have two outputs. Each of the outputs are Ethercon. However, please be aware that you are able to use RJ45 as well. They are labeled U main out and D backup. You are able to actually send two dedicated outputs to your video wall. However, if you continue the loop, run only one signal to your video wall and loop to the same video wall with D, this becomes a backup function, so that if you ever lose connection with U, D will automatically kick in. You will never lose signal to your video wall. This is going to be most desirable for live installations. Alright, the next product we want to continue on to is our VIP signal distributor. This device is required when you're linking more than 24 panels off a single output. We have an input here. We have 4 outputs on the left, 4 outputs on the right. This is acting as a signal splitter and a signal amplifier. This will allow you to link 24 panels out of each of our outputs, giving you a total of 192 panels in a single system. Please keep in mind, if I wanted to come out from each of my VIP drivers, one into A and one into B, then instead of a 1x8 splitter, this becomes a 2x4. Please be aware, this is not going to work one output U and one output D. In that particular setup, D is still a backup. It is not a dedicated output. The next product we want to continue on to, this is our VIP 5162 signal processor. This device is going to allow you to do switching, to do scaling, and to do color calibration. You have all your inputs here. We have 2 VGAs, 4 DVIs, 1 SDI, 4 component video, and what you're able to do is you can connect composite doing your VGAs. Then we have 2 outputs, 2 DVIs. The concept of this video processor is going to be main output, preview. If we turn around to the front, I'll describe how this works more in depth. So on the front of our signal processor, you'll notice several buttons. Let me go ahead and break those down for you. Okay, right here on the left, you have your basic menu navigation. This is going to allow you to change your settings. In the center here, you'll see we have a row of selections on the bottom or a row of selections on the top. We've gone ahead and labeled these preview and program. Like I was telling you earlier, because we do have 2 outputs, you can actually connect a local monitor to your second output, select your video source first, confirm that your cameraman is hitting your right point, confirm that your video is queued up before you actually send it to your video wall. Once you're ready to send it to your video wall, you can select wipe or cut or fade, and then you press the take button. Then it will actually do your transition. Beyond that, on the right hand side here, we have some additional buttons. These buttons are going to access your scaling, your output resolution. It's going to allow you to actually save some of your presets and load them back up. and it's going to allow you to also access your PIPs, which is picture-in-picture, and your information. Last but not least, we have these two USB connections here. These are going to be able to allow you to plug in a small USB jump drive, and this becomes one of your video sources. So you can switch between the DVI and USB, SDI, VGA. This is going to be a really versatile product. In this video segment, we're going to show you how to configure a video wall system with more than one driver. This is referred to as cascading the system. Alright, the first thing you want to do is connect USB and video source, whether it's DVI or HDMI, to your first driver. That's this bottom driver here. You'll notice we've already ran video to both of the drivers and USB to one. That's important as it's a common misconception. Many people think that you only need to run video to your first driver. That's not true. You do need to run a separate video source to each of them. Next thing you're going to want to do is connect your 9-pin serial cable from the output of your first driver to the input of the second driver. This is done by using the 9-pin serial connector right here. This cable is actually included in the box with each VIP driver. So you plug from the output of the first driver to the input of the second driver. And after you do that, you want to make sure that your first driver is addressed at 00. You see on the silk screen here, we let you know when we refer to sender number 1, sender number 2, 3, and 4, these are actually the VIP drivers. So the first VIP driver, dip switch 00, which we've accomplished here. The second VIP driver, we want to set our dip switches to 10, which again we've accomplished here. After this, the drivers should show up properly in the LED Studio software, and you're ready to proceed with your mapping. I'm going to start now with giving you a basic overview of LED Studio. This is the software that you use to map all panels using the lens and control protocol. Alright, its main functions are mapping and calibration. And in this video, we're just going to cover the basic general mapping options. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the software. So one of the things you'll notice when you first open the video panel is you hang them and you get them connected and you start sending your video content to them is they're not quite displaying the content correctly. Let me show you how this looks. If I open a window on my desktop and I drag it into my video wall screen, you see how the video wall is actually showing each panel correctly, however they're not quite in the right order. This is normal, it is natural. There's nothing wrong with your video panels. However, you will need to map them. Alright, that is actually done with the LED Studio software. In this video segment, we're going to show you how that's accomplished. So I'm going to close my window and I'm going to open the Chauvet LED Studio software. I have a desktop icon I'm going to double click on. When the software boots up, you'll see two windows appear. On the top left, it is a test pattern that's showing screen 1. This is used after your wall is mapped to make sure that it is in the correct order. The main window, you have 5 options at the top: File, Control, Option, Test, and Help. Our mapping screen is accessed through the Options and Hardware setting. In the Hardware Parameters window, there are 3 pages: Sender, Receiver, and Display Connection. Display Connection is where you're going to send your mapping. So let me show you a little bit about the screen. The first thing you're going to want to do is set our output to real pixel display, and then we want to set our horizontal card and vertical card. These refer to the actual quantity of video panels in your setup. For this demonstration, we have 4 wide by 2 tall, so I'm going to set this to 4 and 2. The next thing you're going to want to proceed to is setting the individual settings for each panel. Before you click anything, you want to make sure that you're selecting the first panel in order. For this demonstration, The first panel connected to our VIP driver is on the top left. So I'm going to select it. I want to set my main cable. This refers to the physical port on the back of the VIP driver. You have U and D. I'm going to select U because that's the one I'm using. Next, you have extension cable. If you're not using a VIP signal distributor, you always set this to 1. If you are using a signal distributor, set it to the port output that you're using, either 1 through 8. Next, you'll have order number. You're always going to want to start with order number 1. Then you have width and height. Since we're using the PVP S5 for this demonstration, we're going to set this to 96 by 96, and that refers to the actual quantity of LEDs in each video panel. So these are the only settings that we need to input before we proceed to the next step. The next thing you're going to want to do, make sure that you select with your mouse the next panel that is connected in order. So this refers to the EtherCon signal cable. So because I come into the first panel and then I link out to the one below it using the in-style configuration, I'm going to select down. You'll notice the order number increased by 1. Then I select to the right, up, over, down, over, and up. This is the in-style configuration. Something you're going to want to be careful of when you're setting up your video panels, remember the order that you connect them in, because if you don't set this correctly, it's not going to map it properly. Now that we actually have finished our mapping, we're going to want to send to receiver in order to actually cause the panels to know where they're supposed to be. Before we do this, if you notice our video panel is black right now, I want to put something on the video panels so that we can see if this is accomplished properly. So I'm going to open up another folder or a window, drag it into my screen. Now I'm going to hit send to receiver. You can see immediately all of my panels went in the correct order. A window appeared that says data has sent. Are you sure your LED screen is working? I have an option. I can select yes if I'm happy with what I see. If I select no, it's going to revert to the previous setting. So I'm going to select yes. You'll notice as soon as I do that, another button turns from inactive to active. It's the save to receiver. This is more of a permanent setting and usually takes a little longer to send to the panels. However, if you do not do this and you turn the power off to the panels, when you turn them back on, they're going to revert to their previous settings. So because we don't want that to happen, we're going to select save to receiver. Notice that we didn't see any difference between our previous setting, and you shouldn't. If you do see a difference, then something is wrong. So we're going to select yes. And that concludes basic mapping with LED Studio. In this video segment, working with multiple displays, we're going to cover how to duplicate the display of your control monitor along with the display of your VIP driver. This is going to be very useful for troubleshooting purposes. The first step in this process is to right-click on your desktop. Select Screen Resolution. In this window, you'll notice two windows, number 2 and number 1. They represent your control monitor and your VIP driver. If you left-click on number 2, this is my control monitor. If you left-click on window 1, it starts LED 1920 by 1080. This is my video wall. It will always start with LED. The resolution may vary depending on the settings in your sender page of the LED Studio software. So you'll notice at the bottom, under multiple displays, extend this display is selected. We want to change that to duplicate these displays. Select apply. Before we do this though, you need to be aware there is a 15-second countdown that will start immediately if you do not confirm this setting. You'll notice there is a countdown window that appears. It says, do you want to keep these display settings? we want to select Keep Changes. If you do not select that fast enough, it will revert to the previous settings. So we're going to press OK. So one of the first things you'll notice is my video wall is only showing the RKS Media Master icon. If I move my mouse up here, you will see they are indeed showing the same thing. However, the video wall is only showing the top left portion. There's a reason for this. Out of the box, without any kind of scaling or off-board hardware, the video wall will show pixel by pixel for LED for LED. So since I only have 4 panels wide by 2 panels tall, that is only 384 LEDs wide by 192 LEDs tall. That is why I can only see the top left portion of my screen. My control monitor is showing 1,920 LEDs wide by 1080 tall. So there's definitely going to be a difference here. If you want to go ahead and adjust your scaling options within LED Studio, please proceed on to the next section. In this video segment, Scaling with LED Studio, we'll be covering the operation of the built-in scaling option for the LED Studio software. These settings are saved within the VIP driver. So first thing we're going to want to do, open up LED Studio. We'll go straight from our options to hardware setting. And your scaling settings are right here on the middle left where it says width and height. Currently these settings are set at 1 each. What this means is that for every pixel sent into the VIP driver, it will be sent to its own individual LED. What scaling will do is it will cause each LED to look at multiple pixels. Let me show you how the formula works. Since we're using the VIP Media Server Pro to feed the VIP driver, we know that our video input resolution is set at 1920 by 1080. If you need to confirm that, that is easily done by right-clicking on anywhere on the desktop. So we will right-click on our desktop. We will select Screen Resolution. And here you can see our resolution is indeed 1920 by 1080. So we'll close this window and proceed to the formula. I'm going to open up the calculator so you can see what I'm doing on the screen. The formula that we need to do for our width is going to be the LED quantity divided by the video resolution. So 384 divided by 1920 gives us 0.2. We will input this into our width here, 0.2. You can immediately see that our video wall has changed, but it's only changed in the width. The next thing you're going to want to do is adjust your height. So we'll open up our calculator again, and for our height, it is 192 divided by 1080, and it gives us this value here, 0.17777777778. Please be aware, if you ever get a number like this, you may need to do some slight adjustments to it. For example, instead of doing 0, 1, and all these 7s, you might only put 2 7s and an 8. All right, just to shorten it. So we're going to put that into our height. So 0.17778. That doesn't quite work. You see our video wall, we still have a line on the bottom that's not showing properly. So we're going to change that to 0.1778. That appears to work properly. Something else you'll notice, my set width is active, which is causing my video wall to duplicate on the right-hand side. I'm going to deactivate it, and then my video wall shows properly. This is something to be aware of if you're scaling on your end as well. So the next thing I'm going to do, on the top right hand side where it says port of hot backup, make sure that all of my cards are selected, and then I want to press save on sender. So save on sender. Okay, save sender data successfully. So I want to show you an example of what the video wall will look like after scaling, so that you can see also what it looks like before scaling. This will help you determine whether this is important for you or not. So for this demo, I'm going to open some videos that I already have on my computer here. I'm going to open it with Windows Media Player. I'm going to drag it and double click it. So I am playing full screen now without any special media server software, a high def video. This is going to be the applications where you need to do this. Let me show you the same video before scaling. So I'm going to pause my video. I'm going to go to my LED Studio software, and I'm going to set my width back to 1 and my height back to 1. Save that setting. And I'm going to play my video again, full screen. So you can see what's happening. It almost looks like my video wall is distorted, but it's not. It's only showing the top left portion of the video. So if you look at my control monitor that shows the whole video, watch the top left portion and you can see what's going to my video wall. This is not going to be useful for any kind of show or event. So I'm going to set my settings back. I'm going to restart my video. You can see how quick and easy it is to do this once you've understood the concept. And this concludes our section on scaling within LED Studio. So our empties are mapped in our mapping window. So to access that, again, we're going to select Options, Hardware Setting, change to your page Display Connection. What we're going to want to do, and this is always good practice, on either your horizontal or your vertical card, change them to 0, and then start from there. So for our setup, we're 3 wide and we're 2 tall. I'm not going to count for the gap in this section because I want you to see the difference. So I know on my first panel, I'm on my top left, so I select it, check my main cable, extension, and order. And because I'm using the PVP S5, again, 96 by 96, I'm using the in configuration, so down, over, up, over, and down. Select send to receiver. My mapping is correct. Save to receiver. And now we can actually see what's happening with our panels. So I'm going to take my window, I'm going to move it in the top left portion of my control monitor so I can see it on my video wall. As I move it in there, you can see it appears, and you see how it instantly jumps. Your eye kind of thinks it should move in the gap a little bit, but it doesn't. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset my mapping to try and compensate for the empty. And the way you do that is for your empty, because we have a column, I'm going to add an extra column. So I'm going to change my horizontal card to 4. First, before I do that, I'm going to reset it to 0 and reset it to 4. So you map the same way, but you skip over your empties. So I start at my top left, main, extension, order. My width, 96 by 96 again. So again, you proceed to click in the order, skip over your gap, 5 and 6. So now I actually do have my mapping correct. Now I'm going to move on to one of my empties. The first thing you'll do, when you select your empty, go to your main cable, set it to an empty. And when you have empties, extension and order are completely irrelevant. They will not affect anything, so we don't need to worry about those. Width and height are the only thing that matter. For this example, we're going to leave the width and the height for each of these set to 96 by 96, and the reason for that is my gap is equivalent to the same size of a panel. If your gap was twice as wide as a panel, you would do 192 by 96. It is variable. You could do 128, 130. It all depends on the size of your gap. So there may be a little bit of trial and error here before you need to proceed. But since this is an easy demonstration, I just left the gap to 96 by 96. Now what we can do is, because our bottom empty is not mapped, I leave my size the same, select the bottom, that also becomes an empty, and we're ready to proceed. Press send to receiver. You can see my video wall did change. Now it says data has sent. Are you sure your LED screen is working? Before we proceed, I want to grab this window and move it into my top left portion. So I'm starting up here, and as I slide over, it appears, see how it appears to move in the gap, and there it goes. So you can see it's much more of a natural setup. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you actual video content. Alright, so I'm going to select yes, save to sender. For our video content, I'm going to use another software. This is our KS Media Master Pro. This is the playback and content delivery option that we offer at Chauvet. So now I'm going to show you a real example of how video looks playing back through the empty spaces. So once we have the hardware configured, now we're going to proceed to the software. This is done in the LED Studio software. So we're going to open the software on our screen here. We want to go to Options, Hardware Setting. And the biggest thing that should stand out to you is on the top right-hand portion of the screen, you'll see port of hot backup, card 1U, 1D, 2U, and 2D. Previously, the only ports available were 1U and 1D because that's all we had connected. Alright, once you connect a third driver and a fourth driver, you'll know that they're connected properly and that the system is seeing them by the gray marks on the checkboxes becoming solid and having the ability to actually manipulate them. Now that we can see that our drivers are both responding properly, we want to proceed to our display connection. In this window, what we're going to do is we're going to set each row as a different output on our drivers. That gives us 4 outputs total. So in the first row, I'm going to set it to 1U. And I'm going to set my width 96 by 96. And I'm going to proceed with my mapping. Move on to my second row. Set it to 1D. This is the second output of my first driver. Restart my order as 1. And again, I'm going to proceed with my mapping. You'll notice the color, both of these are pink in the background, and green font signifies 1U, blue font signifies 1D. So I'm going to proceed. I'm going to set this to 2U, restart my order at 1. And you'll see my background has changed to green. In the LED Studio software, you'll notice that with a new background color, it is actually set to a new output of your driver. Again, restart my order at 1. So you can see just by glancing at this, if you understand the color code, the entire top 2 rows are on my first driver, the entire bottom 2 rows are on my second driver, and you can see the green font is the U output and the blue font is the D output. So this is going to give you a speedy troubleshooting when looking at this addressing window to make sure that it actually matches your output on your video wall. All right, and this concludes our section on working with multiple drivers. So once we have the hardware configured, now we're going to proceed to the software. This is done in the LED Studio software. So we're going to open the software on our screen here. We want to go to Options, Hardware Setting, and the biggest thing that should stand out to you is on the top right hand portion of the screen, you'll see port of hot backup, card 1U, 1D, 2U, and 2D. Previously, the only ports available were 1U and 1D because that's all we had connected. All right. Once you connect a third driver and a fourth driver, you'll know that they're connected properly and that the system is seeing them by the gray marks on the checkboxes becoming solid and having the ability to actually manipulate them. Now that we can see that our drivers are both responding properly, we want to proceed to our display connection. In this window, what we're going to do is we're going to set each row as a different output on our drivers. That gives us 4 outputs total. So in the first row, I'm going to set it to 1U, and I'm going to set my width 96 by 96, and I'm going to proceed with my mapping. Move on to my second row, set it to 1D. This is the second output of my first driver. Restart my order as 1. And again, I'm going to proceed with my mapping. You'll notice the color, both of these are pink in the background, and green font signifies 1U, blue font signifies 1D. So I'm going to proceed. I'm going to set this to 2U, restart my order at 1, and you'll see my background has changed to green. In the LED Studio software, you'll notice that with a new background color, it is actually set to a new output of your driver. Again, restart my order at 1. So you can see just by glancing at this, if you understand the color code, the entire top 2 rows are on my first driver, the entire bottom 2 rows are on my second driver, and you can see the green font is the U output and the blue font is the D output. So this is going to give you a speedy troubleshooting when looking at this addressing window to make sure that it actually matches your output on your video wall. All right, and this concludes our section on working with multiple drivers. All right, so we've had a lot of questions with how many video panels you can connect to a single VIP driver. So I want to go ahead and clarify that with you. Each VIP driver has 2 outputs. Each of the outputs can drive 655,360 LEDs. That might seem like a lot until you realize that a single video panel of the PVP S5 actually has 9,216 LEDs. That's a lot. So once you start adding video panels to a system, you're going to exceed your limit per output when you connect 60 panels of the PVP5 to a driver. So what's it going to look like when you have this many panels connected and you've exceeded your output? Well, I'll let you know. You're going to see a white noise, or it'll look like a white flickering row across the bottom of your video wall. So when you've done that, you have 2 options. You can either run a second output from your VIP driver, or if you're already using that second output, you're going to need to connect a second VIP driver. We do have a video segment which describes this in details. For more information, please go ahead and contact our customer service department. In this video segment, basic calibration with LED Studio, we're going to cover the on-site and temporary calibration options. For this option, we need to start with mapping your video wall. We already have a wall that's mapped. It's 4 panels wide by 4 panels tall. We are using the PVP S5 video panels. So the first thing you're going to want to do is recognize at the top we have an overall display option for red, green, and blue. If we want to change something here, this is global for the display. So for example, if I change blue to 100 and resend my mapping, you can instantly see the color temperature on my video wall has increased. I'm going to select no. This reverts our mapping back to the previous setting. I'm going to reset my blue to 255, and now I'm going to show you the individual panel temporary calibration. I'm going to select the top right panel, and you notice on the bottom it says card brightness, red, green, blue, white. So here, if I were to change my blue to 100 just for that panel, press send to receiver, just the top right panel is adjusted. So I'm going to select no again, and I'm going to set my panel back to 255 for the blue. You can continue to do this if you're working with different batches of video panels to get them to the closest setting possible. This concludes our section on basic calibration with LED Studio. In this video segment, Advanced Color Calibrations, we are going to cover the processes needed to adjust the brightness for each individual LED, the red, green, and blue. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open up your LED Studio software. You're going to go to Test and Gray Test 2. The reason we do this now is because this window will not be accessible after we open our calibration function. So we want to move this window to the bottom right. We will use this later, but it's not necessary now. Next, we want to select Options, Hardware Setting. We need to turn on the color calibration option. That is done by selecting in the sender page, Enable.Correct for Bright. So I turn it on here. I make sure that all my port-to-hot backups are selected. Press Save on Sender. Save sender data successfully. Press OK. Now we want to move on to our display connection window. So in your display connection, you need to be aware that you have to have previously mapped your video wall for the color correction option to be available. We have done so, so we're going to proceed to color correction. So you press the button at the bottom. You'll see that your window will always open full screen maximized. Double click the title bar and size to preference. I'm going to make sure not to cover my test pattern in the top left, because this is going to be a problem later if we do so. You'll notice I have several different pages here for calibration options. These are not the pages that we want now. We want to actually select a different option, EXT software. The pages change, and what we have here under red, green, and blue, you are actually seeing each individual LED. If I scroll all the way to the right, you'll see that my number is 384. If I scroll all the way down, you'll see on the bottom left-hand portion of my window, I'm at 192. This is how many pixels I have in my current setup. So if you are doing a large wall, I first recommend going back to your shop, pulling a small quantity of the panels you want to adjust, and doing smaller batches. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to get all this selected and adjusted as required. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do here, since I'm working in the bottom right hand portion already, I'm going to select a range of LEDs so that you can understand the concept. I'm going to select red, and I'm going to decrease my brightness. I'm selecting multiple times. I'm at 50,000. Okay. The next step is to actually press save. We have a wide variety of options here. The ones we want to select are LED screen, all cards. Press OK. So if you look on my screen on the bottom right, you'll actually see a small portion of the video wall has dimmed out. I can continue to dim that out if I press decrease brightness. And then I can press save again. It dims it further. What you're able to do is you're able to do each color, red, green, and blue. And at the end, I like to take my white on my test pattern and I like to see how they're mixed. This is going to be most useful when you're working with different video panels of different batches and you need to adjust the brightness to get them to match as close as desired. This concludes our section on advanced color calibration. In this video segment, we will be covering the general introduction of the RKS Media Master software. We're currently working in the theater view for this demo. However, please be aware that there's another view available called Fixture. That will be discussed in a later video segment. To open the Media Master software, we're going to double click on the icon on the desktop. You will see the boot screen. It'll load all of your media content each time it opens. So now that the software is open, I want to give you a general layout. At the top is what we refer to as our layers. In this software, we actually are showing 12 layers. However, please be aware that for the Express version, you will only see 8 layers. On the bottom, we have all of our visual presets available. Starting at visual preset number 1 on the bottom left, I want to show you the different access points of the visual preset. At the top you have your edit button. That brings up another window. We're not going to go there yet. On the top right, you have your option to select foreground, normal, or background. This determines when you bring up multiple layers, which one do you wish to appear on top if they are overlaying. Moving beyond that, we have our actual visual selection. If you left click on this thumbnail, you will be able to select a different image or a different video. Below that, we have our library, visual, and text selection. These will actually allow you to navigate through your different videos without opening your library management screen. For those of you that are more experienced and have your library documented, this is going to be very useful for you. Below that, we have our effect selection. You have 2 ways to select the effect. You can either scroll through here, as you see me doing, or you have a drop-down menu where you can immediately scroll to anything that you need to access. Below that, we have position, mixing, and output. Continuing all the way to the bottom, we actually have our visual preset layer activation. So I can actually left click with this, bring it directly up, and you'll see my video begin to play. I want to point out these 3 boxes on the bottom left. We have 3 different ways to trigger this other than the mouse. You have the letter Q here. This means that if I press the letter Q on my keyboard, I'm going to trigger this preset. You have DMX. It tells me if I have a DMX controller connected, channel 1 is going to activate this. And you also have MIDI. This is MIDI channel 0, note 48. And your velocity would determine the intensity. Okay. To the right, we have 3 different adjustment knobs. Please take note, they are currently empty and unassigned. These are going to be used to give you 3 different parameter controls of each layer. Okay. Backing out a little bit, I want to point out how many visual presets we have available. We have a scroll bar at the bottom. We have 128 visual presets available. Although we can only access 8 at a single time for the express version of the software and 12 for the professional version of the software, it doesn't limit us to how many presets. The reason you would need a lot of presets is, let's say for example you're doing a live event where you have several different cues. You can set up 8 different visual presets for each cue and trigger them when the time is appropriate. Moving to the right side of the screen, on the top right hand portion, this is our master preview for our output. So if I have several different layers playing, you will see them all on the top right hand portion. Moving down, I have a drop down to select which output I want to preview. Since I only have one program right now, I only have one option. But if you're using the video mapper, this is going to give you more options. We have our overall master brightness control, master contrast, we have a mask option, we have keystone options. Please be aware your keystone options are something that have existed in the software since before LED video screens were popular. This software has originated from when projection was very dominant in the market, so that's why keystoning is here. The software is still very compatible with video projection. That's why you also have width and curve. These are going to be used when you need to use multiple projectors and have a seamless output. Then you have master volume. Because I do have a video layer playing that has audio, if I bring this up right now, you can hear the audio start to play. I'm going to bring it back down. And below that, we have a status option. Our status option is listed in frames per second. Okay, on the top we have our GPU. This is going to be our graphic processor unit. On the bottom we have our CPU. Please be aware your CPU is typically always going to be higher than your GPU because the processor doesn't use the CPU to process your video, it uses the GPU. If you ever see any kind of problems with your video output, your first place to check is here. If your GPU has dropped below 30, then this is going to be a good indication that you have a hardware problem in your system, or it is possible that you may have a corrupt file as well, possibly a corrupt video file. Below that, we have some indicators here to determine what modes or what functions of the software are activating. So you have DMX trigger, this is our input trigger. We have the LED mapper option, that's our ArtNet. We have video mapper. We have MIDI, again that's an input trigger, and we have CleanNet. That's an output control. CleanNet's going to work again for any of our Nexus or Epix products at Chauvet. All right, and this section concludes our general introduction to the layout of Media Master. In this video segment, we will be covering the output setting of your Archaeas Media Master software. To access your output settings, first you need to have the software open, select File, select Preferences. Your Preferences window opens. You need to select the Output tab at the top. Currently, we're running under Instant mode. Please be aware, if you are running under Video Mapper mode in the Pro version, which is right here, you will need to reselect Instant and reboot your software. That's not necessary right now. Next, we want to select our full screen output. Then, you have an option. You can either do a custom resolution, or if you deselect custom, there's a drop down with several preset resolutions available. Some of these may suit your needs. However, for this demonstration, I want to size my output to the exact size of my video wall. That size is 384 by 192. Now that we have this set up, we're ready to begin. Press OK. Then you want to enter full screen mode. If you notice on my video wall, if I run the mouse up on my top left, you can see my icon's there. I'm just looking at the top left portion of my video screen. I haven't done any scaling. So I want to select Display, Toggle Full Screen. There's also a shortcut on your keyboard. You can press Control F. You see immediately, because I had a layer up already, it starts playing. Notice the output, it looks blurred. That's because I have an effect on. So I can go to my layer or my visual preset and I can deselect my output of effects. So I set it to no effect. At that point, you can see my output is functioning properly. Now what I want to move into is how do I set custom outputs or position presets. This is going to be covered in the next video segment. In this video segment, we're going to show you how to set custom presets for your position outputs in the Archaeus Media Master software. What you see here on screen, we already have a version of the software open. It's running video content already. This is going to speed up the process for this video segment. If you want to understand how to get to this step, you can see previous videos. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at our position. We want to look at our drop downs. If I select my position on my visual preset number 1, you can see on the top here, these are all of my visual presets that come with the software, all the way up to 180 degrees. Everything below that, those are presets that I've created. So if I set it to top left, you'll see my video wall only goes to my top left quadrant. Again, we have bottom left, we have left, which is the full left portion, we have down, we have third horizontal, and this gives you an idea of what's available in the software. But what happens if you need to set a custom output for your position? This is what I want to cover here in this video. In order to do that, what you want to do is you want to press the edit button. The edit button is going to open another window. So let's press it. This is our visual preset parameters window. In this window, on the top right hand portion of the screen, we have an option to adjust our position X, position Y, position Z, which is zoom, our width, our height, our rotation along the X-axis, rotation along the Y-axis, and our rotation along the Z-axis. So what I'm going to do first, just to start, is I am going to select all my visual presets. I'm going to call up my full screen. Alright, and I'm going to start moving some of these parameters so you can get an idea of what they do. My position X, as you see, it starts my video on the X axis. You can also reset or type in your value here. So you have an option to slide your faders, or you can manually type in your value into the field. Be aware, this software will take in decimals in all of your position presets. This may be helpful if you need to move halfway in between a pixel. Next you have your Y-axis. Okay. So I'm going to set that back to 0 again. And you have your Z. Your Z, as you can see, that is your zoom. I'm going to set that to 0 as well. So let's say I need to set a custom preset to where I only want to output my video to a single video panel. A single video panel would be 96 by 96. So as you see, right on my screen, it's actually outputting properly. That's only a single video panel that you see running at the moment. If I want to save this, I can go to my top and I can select Save to New. And I'm going to title this Single Panel and press OK. Now what happens when I close this window and I bring down this video layer, if I want to call up visual preset number 4, but I want that same video to go to the same position that I just created, I can go to visual preset number 4, bring my drop down list for position, select single panel, and bring up my visual preset. And you can see it outputs exactly where I set it to. So this gives you a rough idea how the position presets work And this concludes our video segment. In this video segment, we're going to cover how to import video content into Media Master. So the first thing I want to do is I want to point out I have a window open on my screen now. Those are video files that I want to import. In my RKS Media Master software, I can either select from the top, Library Management from the Edit dropdown, or I can access this same window from left-clicking on any of my visual thumbnails. So the next thing we want to do is we want to pick a folder. I'm going to pick folder number 5. I'm going to rename it to New Videos. And then at that point, I'm going to select my video from my folder on my left and drag and drop it into my library management. Please be aware, if you want to select several, you can drag several in and it will begin to import them. And once it imports it into the library, it no longer reads from the original source. It will copy the source and modify it as needed. So you no longer need to keep the other files on your computer. This is the best method for importing an entire folder of video content or still image content into your library. The other method is to right-click on one of my empty spaces, select my options menu, and at this point I have to select a file, but I can only do this for one file, so I have to follow the same process each and every file. If you have a media library of 100 video files, this is going to be really tedious, so I recommend just selecting them all and dragging them in from the Windows folder. I'm going to close this out. Now that I have one of my new files in there, I can double click it and it will begin to play. And you can see just how easy it is to import media content into RKS Media Master. And this concludes our segment. In this video segment, we're going to go over the steps needed to configure your RKS Media Master software with a video input card. For this demonstration, we're going to be using a Windows laptop sending HDMI to our VIP Media Server Pro. The things you'll need to know in order to configure your RKS software are resolution and refresh rate. So we need to determine that. So let's go to our laptop here and we'll go ahead and do a little research and find out what those are. I'm able to right-click on my desktop and select Screen Resolution. So in this window, you'll see I have my main monitor, and you also see I have a secondary monitor. The name is BMD HDMI. All right. BMD stands for Blackmagic Design. This is the brand that we use on our VIP Media Server Pro. We're actually using the Decklink Studio. So now that we have a resolution, which is 1920 by 1080, the next thing we need to determine is our refresh rate. You do that by right-clicking on your display, selecting Properties, and then switch to your monitor page. Here we can see that we're outputting 30 Hz. And this is all the information we need to determine before we can proceed to our Media Master software. So let's do that. In our Media Master software, your camera inputs are located under your visual presets. So left-click on one of your visual presets, scroll down through your folders all the way to the bottom. Number 254 is cameras. And here we go. If I hold over the mouse, you'll see Camera Decklink Studio. So I'm going to right-click, select HDMI. And then I'm going to right-click again and select 1080p 30. 30 represents my refresh rate. Press OK when you're ready. And let's see if this worked. Let's go ahead and bring up our layer. So as you can see, it's completely successful. On my laptop, I'm actually outputting this video to my secondary monitor. In this video segment, we're going to be covering the procedures needed to replace an LED module on a PVP S5 video panel. For this procedure, you will need the following tools. You will need a side cutter, and you will need a Phillips No. 2 screwdriver. Alright, let's proceed. So let me lay out the screws needed to replace. There are 8 screws to replace a single LED module. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there are 2 here. In order to do this, we will actually need to remove the power supply and the control card for the respective top or bottom. To do this, we're going to want to open up the service access door. So pull down and rotate. Then this becomes your handle. You can pull it open. As you can see in the center of the panel, the power supply blocks a few of your screws and the control card blocks a few more. So first you need to determine which module you're replacing. For this video segment, we're going to actually replace this one. So I'm going to begin by removing some screws. So now that we've removed all the screws that are accessible, next we need to actually remove the power supply. To do this, we'll use our cutters. And this is the tie wrap we need to cut, right here. Be careful not to cut the cables when doing this. And just remove the tie wrap so that it doesn't fall inside the panel. The power supply is held on with 2 screws. One of the screws is on the side here. The other screw is actually located here, right behind this bundle of cables. So we want to be careful when accessing this. Carefully spread the cables with your hand. Do not use a metal tool for this. And I've located the screw right here. It's difficult to see on camera, but I assure you it's there. Now that we remove both screws, the power supply is actually mounted on a bracket, so we need to take the power supply and push it that way. Go ahead and tilt your power supply over this way. And here you can see we have access to our remaining 2 screws, here and here. The next thing you want to do is remove the power cables for each LED module before flipping the panel over. There are 2 per module. For this module, they can be seen here. Squeeze on the side of the connector with one hand, and with the other hand squeeze this way and pull apart. Let's do the same thing with the other one. Now we're ready to proceed with flipping our panel over. Let's go ahead and tilt the panel up carefully. And on the plastic frame for the LED module, press down in the opposite direction. Okay, let's tilt the panel over. Being careful not to damage the power supply. Now that we've flipped the panel around, we're ready to remove it with our bare hands. So from the side and the top, I'm just going to gently press with my fingers to remove the module. And after I have it out at working distance, you can see the ribbon cable is attached. It is a locking ribbon cable. So I'm going to use my forefinger and my thumb to squeeze it and gently remove it. And you can see it's very simple. It should not be any more pressure than that, or else you may damage the connector. All right. And this is the LED module completely removed. So now that we have our bad LED module on a table, we need to know what LED module to order when calling Chauvet. So you'll notice on all of our modules we place a sticker here. It has a range of serial numbers that this module will work for. And right in the top left-hand portion, you'll see CH12504. This is going to be the exact lot that you need to call and let our parts department know that you need. This is going to make sure that your LEDs are matched perfectly with the panel that you have. Something that's noteworthy is you don't need to pull off the LED module in order to get the right lot number. When you call us, you can reference the sticker on the back of the service access door. It is going to be the exact same number, and this is going to save you a lot of time when calling Chauvet because you won't need to pull off the bad module before you can actually order the good module. When we're putting the new LED module back in, it's good practice to lean it on the bottom here. Make sure your power cables are tucked in, and connect your ribbon cable first. And again, just tuck it in and make sure your power cables are accessible from the inside of your access door. To do this, we'll use our cutters. And this is the tie wrap we need to cut, right here. Be careful not to cut the cables when doing this. And just remove the tie wrap so that it doesn't fall inside the panel. The power supply is held on with 2 screws. One of the screws is on the side here. The other screw is actually located here, right behind this bundle of cables. So we want to be careful when accessing this. Carefully spread the cables with your hand. Do not use a metal tool for this. And I've located the screw right here. It's difficult to see on camera, but I assure you it's there. So now that we removed the 2 screws, we want to take the power supply, slide it back, and tilt it over, being careful not to catch any cables along the way. And this is where we're going to find the bracket. This bracket needs to be removed because we're going to use it for the new power supply. There are 4 screws to remove this. Now we're ready to flip the power supply over and remove the wires. You can easily remove your wire terminal guard by tilting it up, bending from the center, and pulling it away. The next step you're going to want to do is remove your power output and your power input terminals from the power supply and install using the reverse steps with the new power supply. And this concludes our section on how to replace a power supply on a PVP S5 video panel. To do this, we'll use our cutters. And this is the tie wrap we need to cut, right here. Be careful not to cut the cables when doing this. And just remove the tie wrap so that it doesn't fall inside the panel. The power supply is held on with 2 screws. One of the screws is on the side here. The other screw is actually located here, right behind this bundle of cables. So we want to be careful when accessing this. Carefully spread the cables with your hand. Do not use a metal tool for this. And I've located the screw right here. It's difficult to see on camera, but I assure you it's there. So now that we removed the 2 screws, we want to take the power supply, slide it back, and tilt it over, being careful not to catch any cables along the way. And this is where we're going to find the bracket. This bracket needs to be removed because we're going to use it for the new power supply. There are 4 screws to remove this. Now we're ready to flip the power supply over and remove the wires. You can easily remove your wire terminal guard by tilting it up, bending from the center, and pulling it away. The next step you're going to want to do is remove your power output and your power input terminals from the power supply and install using the reverse steps with a new power supply. And this concludes our section on how to replace a power supply on a PVP S5 video panel. In this video segment, we're going to be showing you how to replace a control card in a PVP S5 video panel. There's 1 screw involved, so you will need one of these. And the rest is rather simple and can be done with your bare hands. So the first thing we want to do is remove your ribbon cables from the hub card. Ribbon cable number 1, ribbon cable number 2, like so. The next thing, remove your ribbon cable for your control, which is in the center here. Slide that out. Then remove the cable for your external indicator lights. And then you're ready to remove the screw. So the screw is located right in the front. Just move the cables out the way. Use your number 2 screwdriver to reach in there. Loosen it. And then what you can do is take the entire bracket here and pull back firmly. If you find it difficult after removing the center screw to pull the control card out, your next option is going to be to remove the 2 wires for the power input. Grab the wires, pull them out of your way. You may need to use a screwdriver shaft to pry from the back to remove them from the notch. And this is the control card here removed. You can see the control card module consists of a hub board here, the main control card, and the back bracket. While this does have a batch number on there that determines the lot of 12504, it is not needed for the control cards. That is only needed for the LED modules. To install the new control card, follow the same steps for removal in reverse. This concludes our video segment on replacing the control card in a PVP S5 video panel.